Hey folks, Mr. Hartzler here, and I wanted to talk to you about Vertex form of a quadratic function. So, I think it's just best if we get started. So, on this page, you'll see our targets and vocabulary. So, in general, it's this stuff, right? But the important part is this chunk right here. Our h and k that form our vertex, but they come directly from our formula right here. H is inside the parentheses, K is not. And we solve for this K later on. So if you're interested in that, skip towards the end of the video. All right, let's keep going. First example, I already have two graphs for you. We're just talking about the translations that are happening. So up front, up top, we have our 2, and that makes us steeper. So it's our A value. It tells us we open up because it's a positive number. Because it's greater than 1, it's a stretch. If it were a fraction, or really a number less than 1, it would be a compression. So that really just means that this graph here would be wider if that 2 weren't there. Next is the h. Our h value tells us our left and right, or horizontal translation. That means this -3, this minus, and then our h value is a +3. That means it shifted us to the right 3. Then we have that +4. It does some stuff. Let's see what color. Brown. Brown will work. The 4 here shifts our graph up, which is kind of nice. Now we know exactly how we got to right here. Let's go look at the next example, and hopefully it answers more of your questions. All right, now we're here, and we need to find our domain. Well, it might be easier if I graph first, right? So this is my h value. This over here is my k value. So I go to the right one, because this is my h, it's a horizontal change, and then k is my vertical change. So that's over 1, and then 1, 2, 3 up. So now I'm here, that's my vertex. My amplitude is a 1. Always I put it over 1, no matter what that number is. Even if it's a fraction, I put it over 1. And that just gives me my first iteration, or my first round of where our numbers go. I can't do it after that, because then I end up looking like an absolute value graph. So we look like this now. Awesome. Domain. That's my x values. That's how far left and right my graph can go. And if I notice, the arrows go up and to left and right. That means forever left and right are perfectly fine. So that means all real numbers, which I can write as that symbol, or I can write as -infinity to infinity. My range, just a teensy bit different, right? This is the one where we talk about how far up and down we are. So I'm starting at 3, that's my minimum number, and then I go up from there. So I would write my y is greater than or equal to 3, or I could write 3 to infinity, but wait, this is not a parenthesis, this is a bracket. Because this says equal to, this has to be a bracket. That part right there. Because I'm equal to, I have to use a solid bracket. I like to think about this as I can sit there. It's a solid dot. If it were an open dot, I couldn't sit on it. I'd have to slip off like a parabola. Or not like a parabola, like a parenthesis. That's the name of that thing. Next, we're looking at our vertex. And our vertex is the coordinate point that came from our graph. Vertex is this piece right here. And that is at 1, 3. Then we're looking at our axis of symmetry, and I'll switch to blue. I thought I'd already done blue, but I hadn't. Axis of symmetry, that's just like what you think of it as. It's a little butterfly example that we've done so often in grade school. So it's this little line here. You notice I cross my x-axis at 1. It is x equal 1. That's kind of an ugly one, so we'll try that again. There, pretty one. This has to be the full equation. I cannot just write the number 1. That would not be my answer. It has to be x equals, because it is an equation of a line. Next, I need to figure out if I have a max or min. Well, hopefully, you can look at that graph, and it's a little bit obvious, right? I have a minimum value right there at that blue, and then brown, and then purple, whatever red dot right there. So that's my lowest value. I'm at that, and then I go up, so I can't have a maximum. It keeps going up forever. But if I go down, I stop here. It means I have a minimum at the coordinate point 1, 3. It's always my vertex. Always. And I have to then decide if it's minimum or maximum. So I would then say, or I could also say minimum at 3. Okay, that's my height of 3. So bracket there, height 3 is my minimum. Okay, we'll keep going. All right, now this one can be a smidge tricky. It gets a lot of people nervous. So I start off by graphing my 2 coordinate points. My vertex is 3, -2, 1, 2, 3, down 1, 2. Put my little dot there. Then they give me a whole nother point. They told me, and let's do this one in green, that I have the point 2, 3. So I'm going to go over 2, up 3, and put a dot there. Hopefully that's easy to see. I can see it on my screen good enough. I also know, though, I'm going to have the same dot on the other side. So I'm 1 away from my vertex. So I'm going to be 1 away on the other side. That's axis of symmetry stuff, right? I know my parabola is going to look the same on both sides. And then I'm going to try and draw this graph a little bit. So anyway, here's my graph. I know a couple of things about it. I know it opens up. So that means that I have a minimum again. Also means my A value is a positive number. But let's see what else we know. I'm going to write down the formula for this first. That's one from the very first, second slide, I guess. The one where we had our target and things, target and vocabulary. All right, so I have my formula, but I know more of this, right? There's a couple of things there that I can substitute in. I know not what f of x is, nor what a is, but I do know what h is. It comes from my vertex, my h, and then my k. So this is x minus 3 plus my k value is a -2. Oh, well, I can simplify that a little bit even. It's just deleting the plus sign, right? Just delete right there. Okay. But now I have an f of x and an a. But I know what those things are. They actually gave me a coordinate point for a reason. You'll notice I haven't used it yet. I didn't use this coordinate point at all yet. So let's plug it in. They gave me an x and a y. Remember, f of x is just y. So y, well, I know what that is. Let me write the number in. 3 equals, I don't know what a is yet. I do know what x is. Just told you it comes from that point. 2 minus 3 squared. Then I subtract that 2. Only one variable now. I can solve this. So 3 equals a. 2 minus 3 is a -1. Square it. Minus 2. -1 squared is just +1, isn't it? Okay. So 3 times a times 1. Well, I don't really need them right times 1 because that's just assumed. And then minus 2. So I'll add the 2 over. So 5 equals a. Sweet. But now I have to put it into its right form, right? This is just a 5 as it sits right now. So I should probably put it into something like f of x equals, my a values now, I know it's 5, x minus, not h, not nothing, comes from my h value. So I meant not the letter h, of course. So the number h is 3. Don't forget that gets squared. And then subtracting 2 from my k. This is the equation of my parabola that satisfies this given information. All right, that's it. Hopefully it was helpful. If it was, please click that like button down below. If you have questions about any of this, or if I made a mistake, because that happens, then leave that in the comments down below. If you're one of my students, though, email me. That's the fastest way to get a hold of me and have me answer your questions. So please send me an email if you need anything, and leave comments below if you're not one of my students. And I hope all of you have a phenomenal day. Remember, don't do drugs. It's just an important thing to remember about life. Don't do drugs. Bye, folks.